You know what time it is, Trial Tuesday once again, and today we're talking about late night violence at area nightclubs. It's something that seems to be happening far too often here in the Low Country. Attorney David Aylor, the legal bouncer, going to flex his legal muscle for us today, so to speak, joins us right now to weigh in. And so, David, why are these cases so difficult to prosecute? It seems like they're happening more and more.
Well, there's a number of reasons. First and foremost, you've got to look at what the environment is that these shootings are happening. They're late at night. It's usually after a number of individuals have been drinking. So the accounts that witnesses have are going to be very unclear. A lot of times they're going to be contradicting. The other issue is, did anyone even see it at all? And then beyond that, if they did see it, are they willing to talk to the police?
Indeed, a lot of these things seem to be happening in the parking lots outside of these clubs. So how can they even crack down on this? Is there a way that they can kind of prosecute some of these clubs and send a message to other club owners that they need to better protect their space and the space outside their club?
And I think you bring up a good point there. It's the space outside the club. Most of these clubs do a very good job of keeping any kind of weapons outside of the clubs. The security is pretty well enforced from the door all the way into the club. The problem is exactly that. When there's an issue inside the club, it then leads outside the club into the parking lot areas or the surrounding roads around there, and then that's where you're seeing a lot of this violence happen. So I think what is key is that outside of the club area.
Now, we saw a case over the weekend. Surveillance footage showed that two men went into a bar in the area. They were refused to drink because it was after hours. They'd already closed the bar down, did last call. And then they went back outside to their car, waited in their car, and when some patrons actually left the bar to go into the parking lot, they allegedly shot with a shotgun. Now, if you have that security footage there, how does that take your case?
Well, it's going to help out a lot, particularly in regards to the vehicle that they would have been in. There has been a lot of incidents where these shootings occurred, and they have been from a vehicle, but they're at least able to get that license plate number. That was somewhat of a unique situation. It wasn't so much of a beef, if you will, in between other customers. It was actually due to the fact that it was last call, which obviously people get upset about, but usually not to that extreme degree. So what you really have to look at in that situation is, what could we have done different to really avoid it? And the only thing I can think of is better lighting in that parking lot, which maybe would not make people so comfortable in being able to just pull out their weapons and fire them.
Indeed. Is there a way to get a bigger police presence in front of some of these clubs that are notorious for some violence?
Well, after multiple incidents occur, you'll usually start to see more police patrol. But what you have to also remember at night is there's only so many officers out on the roads, and so they can't just stick as if they're private security themselves for these clubs. They will do drive-throughs, that sort of thing, but they have pretty large areas that they're trying to police, so they can't just sit right in front of the club. Indeed. Just because shootings have happened in the past.
My question about this whole thing is that we've seen a pattern of this, especially with several of the nightclubs that are kind of notorious for this violence outside after hours. How are they still being let to operate a business?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that. Often what will happen is when their business licenses are coming back up, these type of things will come into play. They'll look at how many calls of 911 has been reported to the place. I've represented bars that have been in this issue in the past, and they really will start to look at the security issues. When I say they, I mean things like the city council, the mayor, the citizens of the community, to determine whether or not they should pull that business license. And then, of course, you have the liquor license in and of itself, which is something that SLED deals with.
Indeed. So a lot of these cases, they do eventually find up the perpetrators. Going forward, do you think that some of these will be prosecuted? Do you think that once they catch those guys, especially in the tape or the videotape footage case, that they'll be prosecuted?
I think obviously the more evidence, such as videotapes, the better you are. However, a lot of times within the solicitor's office, I know when I was at the solicitor's office, you would see these types of cases come through, and there are key issues that come into play, such as do you have contradicting statements between different individuals that are witnesses? Do you really have anybody that actually saw it at all? And then if you do, are they actually willing to talk about it? And that's really the most important thing, is because a lot of times people have known what happened, but they don't want to talk to the police about it. Unfortunately, they'd like to handle it themselves.
And definitely makes the police job a little bit more difficult. But,
absolutely.
You did a great job. Thank you for coming back as always. Great
Thanks
to
for
see
having
you.
me. Good to see you back.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Stay with us. We're back with much more in a moment on Low Country Live, so stay with us.